Harry sat in the sterile white room, the silence pressing against his ears like a storm he couldn't hear but could feel crawling under his skin. The ticking clock on the wall sounded off, its rhythm inconsistent, as if time itself was glitching. Dr. Wensley hadn't returned in hours, and the orderly who had brought his lunch tray looked at him like one might look at a stranger muttering to themselves on a bus. It was getting worse. The dreams, if they were dreams, were now bleeding into his waking hours. He'd closed his eyes for only a second earlier, and when he opened them, Ron had been sitting at the foot of his bed, lacing a pair of dragon-hide boots, grinning and rambling about trying out for the Chudley Cannons again. Then, with a blink, he was gone. No puff of smoke. No dramatic sound. Just gone. Harry gripped the edge of his bed so tightly his knuckles turned white. This wasn't just dreams anymore. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He turned to the small mirror on the bedside table. The reflection stared back at him. Wild hair, faint scar, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. But behind his reflection, for a split second, he saw a flash of something else. Stone walls, warm torches flickering, and a red and gold scarf draped over a high-backed armchair. He spun around, heart thundering. Empty room. The edges of his sanity were fraying. And he wasn't sure he even cared anymore. Maybe if he fell through the cracks just right, he'd find out the truth, whatever it was. The door creaked open suddenly, and Dr. Wensley entered, calm and composed as always, though his eyes lingered on Harry longer than usual. "Rough day?" he asked, pulling a chair beside the bed. "You ever feel like the world you're in doesn't belong to you?" Harry asked, voice hoarse. Dr. Wensley blinked, caught off guard for once. "Do you feel like you don't belong here?" "No," Harry said, sitting up straighter. "I feel like this doesn't belong here." He tapped the walls, the floor, his sheets. "It's like I'm on the wrong side of the mirror." Dr. Wensley took notes, scribbled too quickly, like he was trying to hide the words from Harry's eyes. Harry leaned forward, whispering now. "I saw Ron. Again. And the burrow. For a second, I could smell Molly's cooking. Do you know what treacle tart smells like, Doctor? It's sweet but rich, and you can't mistake it for anything else." But then it was gone. All of it. Just vanished. Wensley's pen stopped. "Harry, we've talked about—" "No," Harry's voice hardened. "We've talked about your reality. Let's talk about mine. You want progress? Fine. I'm telling you what I see. What I feel. It's more real than any of this." Wensley watched him carefully. "Then maybe it's time we lean into it." Harry blinked. "What?" "I mean it," Wensley said. "Let's try something new. Tomorrow, we're going to run a regression session. Guided hypnosis. It's designed to help explore recurring imagery in memory and dream overlap. Could be the breakthrough we need." It felt like a trap. Or a door. Harry wasn't sure which one he wanted more. That night, sleep came unwillingly. He lay awake for hours, until exhaustion dragged him under like an anchor in a lake. But this time, he didn't dream of Hogwarts or the Forbidden Forest, or even his parents. He dreamed of a long corridor. Endless. And down it a mirror stood, tall, gold-framed, ornate. It was the mirror of Ariste. But when he looked into it, he didn't see his heart's desire. He saw himself, lying in a hospital bed, eyes open and empty. Dr. Wensley stood at the foot, muttering into a recorder. Subject appears locked in a deep catatonic state. No signs of responsive consciousness. Dream overlay still likely. And in that moment, Harry realized something chilling. What if he wasn't dreaming of Hogwarts? What if Hogwarts was dreaming of him? He reached for the mirror in the dream, and the glass cracked under his fingers. The morning sunlight felt artificial, as if painted onto the walls of the room with a brush too bright for comfort. Harry squinted against it, a dull ache in his skull matching the rhythm of the clock's distorted ticking. The dream from the night before clung to him like fog. That corridor, the mirror, the eerie realization that he might not be the one dreaming after all. When Dr. Wensley entered, clipboard in hand and a strange calmness to his gait, Harry was already sitting upright, waiting. The doctor smiled. "Still want to lean into it?" he asked. Harry nodded once. They wheeled him into a different room, one with no windows, padded walls, and a recliner angled under a low light. A small machine rested beside it, blinking softly. Dr. Wensley adjusted the seat and placed a headset over Harry's ears, murmuring about safe words and grounding techniques, but Harry barely listened. All he cared about was the possibility, however slim, that this regression might break through the illusion. Or confirm it. Close your eyes, Wensley said softly. Let your breathing slow. I'm going to count backward from 10. When I reach 1, you'll be in a memory. Any memory. Let it come to you. Harry exhaled. His chest rose, fell. The counting began. 10. 9. 8. Darkness swirled. 7. 6. Wind cold against his face. The scent of pine trees. 5. 4. A whoosh of wings. A dragon roared in the distance. 3. He was flying. Not in a dreamlike way, it was too real. The wind whipped through his hair, the firebolt beneath him vibrating with speed. Below him, the Quidditch pitch roared with the sound of thousands of students cheering. 2. His hand closed around the snitch, and he looked up to see Ron and Hermione racing toward him, their faces split in victorious grins. 1. The world snapped into focus like a Titan lens. He was at Hogwarts. Not a memory. Not a playback. It felt live. He could feel the heat from the sun, hear the crowd's footsteps, taste the sweat in the air. Everything pulsed with life. It was real. He landed hard, knees bending, as Ron clapped him on the back and Hermione laughed, her curls bouncing. Harry, that was brilliant, she said, beaming. Mate, that dive. I thought you were going to crack your skull open, Ron added. But Harry wasn't listening. His hand slowly rose to his face. His scar, it was warm. Tingling. There was no hospital bed. No white walls. No Dr. Wensley. No ticking clock. What day is it? He asked suddenly. Ron gave him a weird look. Sunday. Last match before exams. You okay? Hermione's smile faded. Harry, what's going on? I don't know, he whispered. I think I'm stuck. The sky darkened. Clouds rolled in unnaturally fast, and the sound of the crowd vanished as if someone had pressed mute. Harry turned. The stadium was gone. Now only fog. From the mist, a figure emerged. It was him. Or rather, the version of himself from the hospital. Pale, hollow-eyed, in a patient's gown. It looked at him with pity. You still don't get it, it said. You're not stuck in the dream. You are the dream. Harry backed away. No, I'm real. I'm me. Which version? The other Harry asked. Behind him, Ron and Hermione flickered like candlelight in a breeze. Then gone. Harry screamed. The scene shattered. Glass flew everywhere, but there was no pain. Just a rush of wind, a howl of noise, and then he was back in the recliner. Panting. Sweating. Dr. Wensley stared at him, unnerved for the first time. Harry, are you all right? You flatlined for a moment. Just for a second. Harry's throat was dry. I was there. You remembered something? No, Harry said hoarsely. I was there. I played Quidditch. I talked to them. I could feel it. Dr. Wensley scribbled something quickly, but Harry leaned forward, grabbing his wrist. You don't understand. This isn't just trauma or fantasy. Something's trying to wake me up. But I don't think it's me. There was a long silence. Then Wensley quietly said, We may need to try something more aggressive. There's a treatment, experimental, but designed to trigger deeper memory layers. You'd need to consent. Harry looked him dead in the eyes. If it gets me closer to the truth, I don't care what it takes. As Dr. Wensley stood and walked to prep the forms, Harry glanced to the side and saw the reflection in the machine's metallic surface. Not his. It was Dumbledore. And he was watching. The image of Dumbledore's reflection stayed with Harry long after it faded. He hadn't spoken, hadn't moved, just stood there, watching him from the metal surface like a guardian behind glass. It wasn't a hallucination. Harry knew that presence. Dumbledore's eyes held the weight of too many secrets. And for once, Harry wasn't sure if he was comforted or terrified. Back in his room, he paced. The regression session had rattled something loose. For the first time, he wasn't just slipping into memories, he was existing in them. He had touched the broomstick, felt the wind, spoke to Ron and Hermione. He wasn't remembering. He was returning. But if that was true, then what was this? Dr. Wensley returned later that evening with a small box and a serious expression. We'll begin tomorrow, he said. The treatment is short but intense. You may lose consciousness. You may experience time distortion, identity dissociation, spatial disorientation. Sounds like my third year, Harry muttered. Weasley didn't laugh. The doctor opened the box to reveal a thin vial of liquid and a sleek injection device. This is called somniferum. It forces the brain to collapse internal contradictions between dream and memory. Essentially, it forces the truth to surface. Or madness, Harry said quietly. Weasley nodded grimly. Sometimes both. That night, Harry couldn't sleep. His mind was caught in a whirlpool of what-ifs. What if this treatment did reveal the truth? What if Hogwarts wasn't a dream but another life, one he had been ripped from? And worst of all, what if he chose wrong? Just before dawn, he felt it again, the pressure in the air, that strange electric tingle down his spine. He turned toward the mirror and there, in the reflection, stood Sirius Black. Harry's chest tightened. Sirius looked older. His eyes were softer. And unlike the others, he didn't vanish. He raised a hand and pressed it to the glass, as if trying to reach Harry. You're almost there, kiddo, he said. You've got to remember what matters. Not just who you were, but why you were. Harry stood slowly, moved to the mirror. Sirius, please, am I dreaming? Or am I lost? Sirius smiled faintly. You were taken, and they've kept you under for too long. But your magic, it's bleeding through. That's why it's collapsing now. Who are they? Sirius didn't answer. A crack split the mirror behind him, running from top to bottom. Then the glass shimmered and dissolved into smoke. Sirius was gone. Morning arrived with sterile brightness. Weasley entered without preamble. We begin now. Harry didn't resist. They secured him to the recliner again, slid the headset over his ears, and pressed the injection pen to his neck. A cool hiss, then warmth flooding his veins. The world tilted sideways. Count backward from 10, Harry, Weasley said. But Harry was already gone. This time there was no gentle descent. No fog. No corridor. Just light, blinding and hot and pure. It roared past him in waves, and then everything stopped. He was standing in the Department of Mysteries. The veil stood in front of him, that same ragged archway with tattered whispers flowing like silk through the air. But this time there were no Death Eaters. No order. Just silence. Harry. The voice came from behind the veil. It wasn't a whisper. It was calling him, pleading. Sirius? He asked, stepping closer. No, the voice said. You. The real you. And then a hand reached out from the other side. It was his. Another Harry. Older. Worn. Scarred in places he didn't recognize. The two of them stared at each other through the flowing fabric of the veil. They've trapped you in your own mind, the older Harry said. They're feeding off your magic while you sleep, your memories, your energy. Every dream is a cage. You're not broken. You're just held. Harry staggered back, mind spinning. Held by who? Wizards who lost their way. Who want to rewrite the world without the boy who lived in it. You were too powerful. Too unpredictable. They put you here to remove you. The veil pulsed between them, trembling under some unseen strain. I don't know how to get out, Harry whispered. You do. You always have. But you have to believe that the world you left is real. It's not a dream, Harry. This is the dream. This place. These rooms. The doctors. All of it. The veil began to glow, splitting at the seams like it couldn't contain them both. Wake up, the other Harry said, voice shaking with urgency. Before they seal it for good. And with a crash, the veil exploded. Harry's body jerked in the recliner. He gasped like a man pulled from deep water, his eyes wide and unseeing at first. The room spun, morphing through shapes that didn't make sense. Walls folded in on themselves, the ceiling dripped upward, and the floor pulsed like a living thing. Harry? Harry, stay with me. Dr. Weasley's voice cut through the chaos, but Harry could barely process it. He felt split, like he was occupying two spaces at once. One tethered to this sterile place of drugs and delusion, and the other, reaching outward toward something far older, far realer. The veil's shattering still echoed in his ears. That other Harry's face, his face, still hovered behind his eyelids. You're not broken. You're just held. He sat up too fast. The world slid sideways, and Weasley tried to push him back down, but Harry grabbed the doctor's wrist with a strength that surprised them both. No more sedation. No more regressions, Harry said, his voice hoarse but clear. I know now. This is the dream. You are the dream. Weasley flinched, then quickly masked it behind professional detachment. Harry, listen. No, you listen, Harry growled. Where's the mirror? Weasley hesitated. What mirror? The one with Dumbledore. The one in the corner last night. Don't pretend it wasn't there. Weasley's lips tightened, and for a second, just a second, his eyes flashed gold. Harry froze. That's not your real face, is it? Weasley exhaled slowly, and the illusion dropped. He didn't transform into a monster or beast. That would have been too easy. Instead, his features melted into something smoother. Sharper. Inhumanly perfect. His eyes were bright like molten coins. And he smiled. We gave you peace, he said. A life without war. Without blood. You were content. You stole my life. We paused it. The world is changing, Harry. Faster than you understand. Your presence, tilts the balance. You burn too brightly. You make others believe. Harry backed away toward the door, but it no longer existed. The walls had become seamless. The lights dimmed. Why me, he asked. Why trap me? The Not Weasley stepped forward. Because they feared what you'd become. We are the caretakers of equilibrium. You dream while we fix what your chaos broke. Like hell, Harry hissed. Magic surged in his chest like a dam breaking. His fingers sparked, first faintly, then with full force. For the first time since waking in this twisted place, he felt his magic. Raw, unfiltered, furious. With a shout, he thrust his palm outward. The wall exploded. Screams filled the corridor beyond. Alarms shrieked. The scent of burning electronics and ozone flooded his senses. Nurses, or things dressed as nurses, ran past, their forms glitching, flickering between human and alien shapes as the illusion lost control. Harry didn't wait. He bolted. Down halls that shimmered like reflections on water. Past patients whose eyes locked on him with sudden lucidity. Some cheered. Others wept. One, a small girl no older than Ginny had been in first year, whispered, "The chosen one remembers." Doors blew open as he passed. Lights shattered. The building shook. At the end of the corridor, a great, arched doorway stood. And behind it, a familiar hum. Magic. Real magic. Ancient, wild, and waiting. He pressed his hand to the door. From behind, Weasley's voice, distorted and cracked, called out, "If you leave, you can't come back. This world will collapse." "Then let it," Harry whispered. The door burst open. He stumbled through into blinding light, and found himself in a chamber of glass and stars. A dome with no ceiling, stretching into a galaxy that spun too fast. Floating islands of stone orbited slowly, and at the center was a single, raised platform with a mirror resting on it. Not the mirror of Eriste. Something older. The mirror of origin. He walked to it slowly, the air thick with magic. When he looked in, he saw not his reflection, but every version of himself. The boy under the stairs. The wizard with a wand. The soldier in a war. The patient in a cell. And behind them all, a final figure. Harry Potter. Whole. Aware. Awake. The one waiting to return. He reached forward. And this time, the glass didn't resist. It accepted him. The surface of the mirror of origin rippled like water as Harry stepped into it. Not through it, into it. The sensation wasn't like walking through a doorway. It was like his body was dissolving into strands of light, unraveling across time and memory, being restitched into something whole. Pain flared, not the sharp kind, but the aching kind, the kind that lived in bone and memory. Every moment of his past life surged through him at once. Hedwig's soft wings brushing his face. Ron's laughter. Hermione's scolding tone. The weight of the Triwizard Cup. The smell of the burrow. The kiss in the room of requirement. And then, the battlefield at Hogwarts. Voldemort's scream. The silence after victory. And then, darkness. Followed by sterile walls. White sheets. Dr. Weasley's cold voice. Harry screamed through the agony as two realities pulled at him, each demanding to be the truth. The room twisted into something impossible. One half hospital, the other half the forbidden forest under moonlight. Monitors beeped while owls hooted. For lines tangled with broomsticks. A hospital bed merged with a Hogwarts four-poster. He was standing at the center of it all, between two worlds fighting for dominance. Then he heard it, faint at first, but unmistakable. "Harry." A whisper. Hermione's voice. He turned. A figure stepped through the trees. Hermione, just as she'd been in their 7th year. Dirty robes. Hair wild. Eyes sharp and determined. "You're late," she said, offering her hand. "Aye, Hermione?" Harry's voice cracked. "Is it really you? Do you remember what Dumbledore said?" she asked. Harry blinked. "He said a lot of things." "Of course it's happening inside your head, Harry. But why on earth should that mean it's not real?" His breath caught. The words struck something deep. The balance tipped. The hospital around him groaned like a dying beast. Wensley's voice echoed faintly. "You don't know what you're doing. You'll fracture your mind completely." Hermione reached out. "Come on. We've been waiting. You just need one final push." Harry hesitated. Then another hand reached out from the other side, serious. Then Luna. Neville. Hagrid. Ginny. Ron. All waiting. All real. He took a step forward, and the world behind him screamed. The false world of the hospital roared in protest. The building shattered like glass. The floor split open. Everything became smoke. And suddenly he was falling, fast and hard, through layers of light. Through dreams. Through memories. Through time. He landed hard, knees on stone. He gasped for breath, chest heaving. And when he opened his eyes, he was on the floor of the great hall. Dusty. Damaged. But unmistakably Hogwarts. The sky above him was dark with stars. The long tables were empty. The torches flickered. He stood up slowly. No one else in sight. Was it a memory? An echo? "Harry!" A voice behind him. He turned, and nearly fell over. "Ginny." Tears immediately welled in his eyes. "Ginny." She didn't say anything. Just walked up to him and touched his cheek. "You're really here," she whispered. "Am I?" he asked. "I don't know what's real anymore." She pressed her forehead to his. "Then let's find out together." And as she spoke, the great hall began to fill, slowly, like water returning to a dry lake. Ron. Hermione. Neville. Luna. Professors. Students. Ghosts. And at the far end, Dumbledore. Smiling. Silent. Approving. Harry's knees buckled. But Ginny held him. "Welcome home," she said. And for the first time in what felt like lifetimes, Harry believed it. The great hall was alive again, but something was different. Time didn't seem to flow normally here. The torches flickered with memories, not flames. Faces smiled at Harry, familiar, beloved, but none of them looked surprised to see him. It was as though they had all known he would return eventually. Harry stood there for a long moment, soaking it all in. The feel of the stone underfoot. The air that smelled like parchment, soot, and something ancient. It wrapped around him like a cloak he hadn't realized he'd been missing. Ginny hadn't let go of his hand, and he didn't want her to. Hermione was the first to break the silence. She stepped forward from the growing crowd, her eyes glassy. "We weren't sure you'd find your way back." "I wasn't sure either," Harry whispered. "I didn't know what was real. I thought I'd lost everything." Ron joined them, grinning but clearly holding back emotion. "Mate, we've been trying to reach you for months. Maybe years. Depends how you count it here." Harry frowned. "Reach me how?" "It started small," Hermione said. "Books falling off shelves. Candles going out. Ghosts whispering strange things. The magic in the castle. It knew something was missing. The room of requirement almost collapsed in on itself one day." Luna chimed in, floating in from behind the staff table like she had just drifted in from a dream. "It kept showing us your face over and over. Even Peeves was crying." Harry looked around again. "But where exactly am I?" Dumbledore stepped forward at last, robes sweeping like water across the stones. "You are in the memory of a world that refused to forget you, Harry. This castle, our magic, preserved itself. When they took you, we didn't know where. Only that you were gone. But the soul of Hogwarts remembered." Harry's chest tightened. "They said I was too powerful. That I disrupted balance." Dumbledore nodded gravely. "There are always those who fear light as much as they fear darkness. You, Harry, were never meant to be controlled. So they caged your mind in a fabricated reality, cut you off from the wellspring of your magic, hoping you'd forget who you were." Harry turned slowly, taking it all in again. "Then this place, this version of Hogwarts, isn't real either?" "It is," Dumbledore replied gently, "but not in the way you once knew. This is the castle's memory. A pocket of magic so powerful, it refused to die. You're standing in a sanctuary built from love, loyalty, and the stubborn will of those who believed in you. Ginny touched his shoulder. It's not the end, Harry. It's the way back. The way back to what? He asked. If they trapped me, if they've taken me out of the world, what's left for me to return to? Hermione stepped forward, eyes fierce. You weren't the only one who remembered. Out there, the real world has changed. But there are people still fighting, still searching. The war didn't end when Voldemort died. A new one began, one built on lies, on control, on silence. Ron pulled a wand from his coat and offered it to him. They'll come for you now. They'll know you've broken free. But this time you've got us. Harry took the wand. The second his fingers closed around it, he felt something click into place. A pulse of heat, like a key turning in a lock. His magic surged again, but this time it didn't burn, it sang. The walls of the great hall shimmered, and Hogwarts itself seemed to breathe. Dumbledore raised a hand. Harry, the mirror brought your soul back, but your body remains in their control. You are still suspended in that false world. This version of you must return. You must reclaim yourself. And how do I do that? Harry asked, gripping the wand tightly. The same way you defeated Voldemort, Hermione said with a soft smile. Not alone. Dumbledore gestured behind him. The crowd parted, revealing a doorway made of light. Beyond it was darkness, cold, strange, shifting. That's the rift between what they've made and what truly exists, he said. Step through, and you'll be back inside the lie, but you'll have your memories, your magic, and your purpose. And you lot, Ron grinned. We'll be with you. Every step. We're done watching from the sidelines. Ginny squeezed his hand. Bring us back, Harry. Bring back the truth. He looked into the light and nodded. For the first time in what felt like forever, he wasn't afraid. He stepped into the doorway. Harry stepped through the doorway of light and was yanked back into the nightmare. His eyes snapped open, and the cold, sterile air of the hospital flooded his senses. The beeping of machines. The two white walls. The weight of the blankets pinning him down. But this time, something was different. He remembered. The moment his mind reconnected with his body, power surged through his veins. The restraints on his wrists snapped like thread. The beeping monitors fizzled out, sparks flying. The room seemed to recoil, the illusion struggling to contain him. Not this time, Harry growled. The door burst open. Dr. Weasley stormed in, flanked by two orderlies. But now that Harry could see through the lie, their faces flickered. Human one moment, something else the next. Their eyes gleamed gold. Their skin rippled like stretched fabric over the wrong bones. Back in bed, Mr. Potter, Weasley said sharply, his voice laced with something unnatural. You're confused. You're sick. Let us help you. Harry stood, his magic crackling at his fingertips. You lied to me. Weasley sighed. And yet, wasn't it easier? He took a step forward, voice dropping to a whisper. No war. No losses. No blood on your hands. Why fight? What did that world ever give you but pain? Harry clenched his fist, and the entire room shook. The IVs ripped from his skin. The lights overhead exploded. Power surged through him, raw and untamed. The castle's memory had filled him, fused with him. You kept me locked away because you were afraid, Harry said. Afraid I'd wake up. Afraid I'd remember. He raised his wand. Weasley's face twisted, not in fear, but in amusement. You think you're the first to resist? You think you can break the dream? The walls of the hospital began to shift. They stretched, cracked, flickered. The ceiling ripped away like peeling wallpaper, revealing a swirling, empty void. And then the screaming started. Harry turned. Down the hall, doors were bursting open, one after another. Patients, real, trapped people, stumbled out, blinking, terrified. Some collapsed. Others vanished, dissolving into mist as the dream world crumbled. Then he saw them, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Neville, Luna. They were running toward him, wands drawn, their faces real. We found the others. Hermione shouted. They were never just illusions, Harry. There are hundreds of people trapped here. Harry's breath hitched. The others. People who had been stolen from the real world, just like him. The orderlies snarled, no longer pretending to be human. Their forms warped, shifting into tall, skeletal figures with elongated limbs and two wide mouths. Their golden eyes burned. Enough, Weasley, or whatever he truly was, hissed. You cannot win. Harry's magic exploded outward. The walls of the hospital tore apart, revealing glimpses of something beyond, familiar places. The burrow, the astronomy tower, Diagon Alley. The real world was breaking through. Ron grabbed his arm. Mate, if we're doing this, we do it now. Harry turned to his friends. To the people still trapped, still confused. And he understood. They had been trying to wake him up for years. But now he was the one who would wake them. Harry closed his eyes, gripping his wand tightly. He reached deep, not just into himself, but into the magic woven into this place. The memories of Hogwarts. The belief of every lost soul. He spoke one word. Finite. A shockwave tore through the hospital. The walls melted. The ceiling shattered like glass. The floor collapsed. And suddenly, Harry was falling again. Through layers of broken dreams. Through shadows and light. Through whispers of lost voices. Then, he hit solid ground. The scent of grass. The feel of cold night air. The distant hoot of an owl. Harry's eyes flew open. He was lying on the ground outside Hogwarts. The real Hogwarts. And around him, one by one, the others were appearing. Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Neville, Luna, and so many more. People who had been stolen returned. The dream was gone. The nightmare was over. Or so he thought. Because as he stood, heart pounding, trying to process what had just happened, the sky above Hogwarts cracked like a mirror. And something on the other side looked back at him. Harry staggered to his feet, barely able to breathe. The air around him shimmered with unstable magic. The people who had escaped the dream with him were in a daze. Some sobbing, some staring at their own hands as if they couldn't believe they were real. But Harry's eyes were fixed on the sky. The crack was growing. It stretched across the night like shattered glass, revealing something beyond, a swirling, shifting void. It wasn't empty. Shadows moved within it. And then a voice. Not words. Not sound. A feeling. Something ancient. Something watching. Ron clutched his wand tighter. Mate? Tell me that's just a weird storm. It's not, Hermione said, her voice trembling. Harry, what is that? Harry swallowed hard. He didn't know. But he felt it. A deep, unnatural pull. The dream had been a prison. But this? This was the warden. The entity or entities that had designed the lie. And now they were aware of him. The air grew colder. The grass beneath Harry's feet blackened, as if burned by unseen fire. The figures in the rift moved faster. They weren't just watching anymore. They were coming through. A voice slithered through his mind, like silk soaked in poison. You should have stayed asleep. Harry's scar burned. But it wasn't the same pain as before, not Voldemort's magic. This was different. Something older. Something wrong. Ginny reached for him. Harry, we have to move. Too late. The first shadow descended. It moved like smoke and ink, shifting unnaturally, unfolding from the sky like it had never been meant to exist in this world. Its shape flickered, tall and thin one moment, monstrous and crawling the next. Then it spoke. You broke the seal. The voice didn't come from the creature's mouth, because it had no mouth. The words vibrated through the very air, drilling into Harry's skull. He clenched his wand, stepping forward. Who are you? We are the architects. The rift shuddered. More figures stirred within. More architects waiting, watching. They built the dream, Hermione whispered. They built the lie. The creature took another step forward. The grass beneath it withered. The order was wise to remove you, Harry Potter. You are an anomaly. A disruption. You fracture reality simply by existing. Harry's heart pounded. You mean I was too powerful for your control? The thing tilted its head. Your kind are wild magic. Your world is unstable because of you. You were placed where you could do no harm. Rage flared inside him. You stole years of my life. We preserved you. We ensured peace. The architect's form rippled. And now, because of you, the seal is undone. The walls are broken. What was contained will now spread. Harry's blood ran cold. He suddenly understood. The dream hadn't just been a prison for him. It had been a barrier. A lock. And now that he had shattered it, something far worse was spilling through. The rift groaned, the crack widening. The other figures inside moved closer. Ron stepped beside Harry, his wand raised. Whatever this is, I don't think we can talk our way out. Luna's eyes gleamed with something distant, something knowing. They're afraid. The architect turned to her. We do not fear. We correct errors. Then why haven't you attacked? Luna asked dreamily. Why waste time talking? The architect's form twitched. Harry realized she was right. They weren't attacking, at least not yet. Because they couldn't. Not fully. Not yet. The dream had kept them locked away. Now that it was broken, they needed time to cross over completely. Time Harry wasn't going to give them. He raised his wand. Magic pulsed around him. We're not your prisoners anymore. The architect hissed. You misunderstand. We never wanted prisoners. We wanted order. Yeah. Harry stepped forward, his wand blazing with light. Then let me show you what chaos looks like. And with a single slash of his wand, he sent a shockwave of magic into the sky. The rift howled. The architects screamed. The battle for reality had begun. Magic roared through the air as Harry's spell struck the rift. The sky trembled, the crack expanding and warping, but it didn't break. Instead, the shadows inside began to pour through. The architects had arrived. Figures of twisting void and shifting shapes, their golden eyes burned like dying stars. They moved like liquid darkness, stepping into the world they had once been sealed away from. The ground withered beneath them, reality itself seeming to bend at their presence. The first one reached for Harry. He dodged, rolling across the scorched grass as the air where he'd stood rippled like water. It wasn't just an attack, it was erasing everything it touched. Ron and Hermione were at his side in an instant, wands drawn. Protego Maxima, Hermione yelled, slamming her wand into the ground. A shimmering golden shield erupted around them, barely holding back the advancing void. Neville and Luna stood near the others, guiding the freed prisoners, those who had woken up from the dream and were now caught in the battle of their lives. Some were too dazed to fight. Others raised their wands, terror mixing with determination. Ginny stood at the front lines, her hair whipping in the wind. No time to think, Harry. We fight. Harry didn't hesitate. Stupefy, he roared, sending a jet of red light into the nearest architect. The spell struck, but instead of staggering back, the creature absorbed it. Then it opened its golden eyes wider, and sent the magic back. Harry barely deflected it. They can counter our spells. Then we stop holding back. Ron growled. He flicked his wand. Confringo. The explosion rocked the battlefield, flames licking at the dark figures. The architect caught in the blast twisted unnaturally, its form flickering, struggling to hold shape. Fire! Hermione gasped. They can't absorb fire-based magic. Harry's grip tightened on his wand. Then he thrust it upward. Incendio Maxima. Flames erupted into the sky, engulfing the rift. The architects screamed in a sound that wasn't sound at all, a tearing, warping wail that rattled the bones. But it wasn't enough. More of them were coming through. Harry! Luna called suddenly, pointing at the rift. It's not just opening, it's anchoring itself. They're making it permanent. Harry's heart pounded. If the rift stayed open, the architects wouldn't just invade this world. They'd spread, rewriting reality itself, pulling everything into their twisted version of order. The dream had been a test, a prototype for what they wanted to do to everything. And Harry was the reason they had a way in. No, he whispered. Not again. The magic inside him surged, responding to his determination. The castle's magic. The memory of Hogwarts. The architects had underestimated him. They thought he had only broken free. But in truth, he had stolen their power. Harry closed his eyes, reaching deep. The castle's magic responded, wrapping around him like an old friend. He felt the stones, the corridors, the very soul of Hogwarts. And for the first time, he understood. The castle itself had been the key. It had been built on ancient foundations, infused with magic beyond comprehension. It had been the one thing standing between the architects and everything else. Hogwarts was the seal, and he was about to restore it. Harry's eyes snapped open. Everyone, hold them back. Ron grabbed his shoulder. What are you doing? What I should have done from the start, Harry said. His voice was calm. Steady. Certain. I'm ending this. Before anyone could stop him, he turned and ran straight toward the rift. The architects screeched, sensing the threat. The shadows lunged. Spells flew past Harry as his friends tried to cover him. Ginny's fire spells. Hermione's shields. Ron's relentless hexes. But it was Luna's voice that cut through it all. "Harry, you already woke up. Don't let them trap you again." He knew what she meant. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't an illusion. This was real. And so was he. Harry leaped straight into the rift. The void swallowed him whole. And then, everything went white. Harry fell. Or maybe he wasn't falling at all. Maybe he was floating, suspended in the endless void beyond the rift. The world he had known was slipping away, and for a terrifying moment, he wondered if he had made a mistake. But then he felt it. Magic. Not just his magic. All magic. The dream. The castle. The architects. It was all connected. He wasn't just in the space between worlds. He was at the heart of it. The place where reality itself bent and twisted, where time and memory bled together. And standing there, waiting for him, was one last architect. It was different from the others. Where the others had been shifting void and liquid shadow, this one was stable. It had a form, a humanoid figure, tall and draped in flowing dark robes, its golden eyes burning like twin suns. "You cannot stop it now." The voice was deep, calm, final. "You misunderstand your place, Harry Potter. You are not a savior. You are the error." Harry tightened his grip on his wand. "I don't care what you think I am." The architect lifted a hand. The space around them rippled, bending under its will. "This world was broken long before we arrived. We only sought to repair it." Harry let out a short, bitter laugh. "Repair? You stole everything from us. Our lives. Our choices. Our pain." His voice hardened. "I remember what I lost. And I won't let you take it again." The architect tilted its head, as if studying him. "And yet you hesitate." Harry froze. Because the architect was right. Something in the void called to him. It whispered of peace. Of order. Of perfection. No more suffering. No more war. Just a world that made sense. A world where his parents had lived. Where no one had to die. A world where he didn't have to be Harry Potter, the boy who lived. For a fraction of a second, he wanted it. But then, a voice. Not the architect's. A voice he knew. Harry. It was quiet. Soft. Loving. And when he turned, he saw them. Lily and James Potter. Standing behind them were everyone he had lost. Sirius. Remus. Tonks. Fred. Dumbledore. Even little Colin Creevey, smiling that same eager, determined grin. They weren't illusions. They weren't part of the architect's trick. They were memories. Pieces of the real world, anchored to him, reminding him of the truth. Lily stepped forward, her green eyes, his eyes, filled with warmth. "You have to let us go, sweetheart." Harry's breath caught in his throat. James nodded, his voice steady. "This isn't your place. You belong out there." Harry clenched his fists. They were right. He could feel the magic coursing through him. The raw, untamed energy of Hogwarts itself, waiting for him to act. The castle had always been more than stone and towers. It was alive. It had chosen him. And now it was giving him a choice. The architect must have sensed it, because its golden eyes narrowed. "If you do this, you undo everything." Harry met its gaze. Good. Then he let go. Not of the past. Not of his parents. But of the dream. Magic exploded outward. A shockwave of raw energy tore through the void, unraveling the false reality the architects had constructed. The golden-eyed figure let out a piercing cry as it began to disintegrate, its form pulled apart like dust in the wind. The rift began to collapse. Harry felt himself being pulled backward, yanked out of the void, back toward the real world. And then, light. Blinding, searing light. He landed hard, gasping for air, the cool grass of Hogwarts beneath him. Around him, the sky was clearing, the rift was gone. The architects had been erased. His friends stood around him, staring in stunned silence. Ron was the first to move. Harry. Harry looked up at him, then around at the faces of those who had fought beside him. Hermione. Ginny. Luna. Neville. They were real. They had won. He let out a shaky breath. It's over. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Ginny let out a choked laugh and tackled him in a hug. The rest followed. Harry didn't pull away. For the first time in his life, he was truly awake. Weeks later, Harry stood at the top of the astronomy tower, looking out over Hogwarts. The castle had survived. The world had survived. But there were scars. There always would be. Some people would never remember the dream at all. Others would carry its echoes forever. Harry himself, well, he didn't know what came next. But maybe that was okay. For the first time, the future wasn't written for him. It was his to decide. He smiled, feeling the wind against his skin. And for the first time in a long, long time, he was free.